Hey everyone, it's Monday, November 17th, and you're listening to a special in-depth episode from Visa Verge. Today we're slowing down and focusing on one story that has shaken a lot of people in aviation and beyond. The former Alaska Airlines pilot who tried to shut down a plane's engines in mid-air and has now avoided additional prison time. This isn't just a headline about a scary flight. It's a story about mental health, public safety, and how a serious criminal case can follow an aviation worker through their license, their job prospects, and even their immigration options. Let's start with what happened. Back in October of 2023, Joseph Emerson, a 44-year-old former Alaska Airlines pilot, was riding in the cockpit jump seat as an off-duty pilot. That jump seat is basically an extra seat in the cockpit used by off-duty crew. The plane, with 84 people on board, including 11 children, was headed to San Francisco. According to court records, Emerson suddenly tried to pull the fire suppression handles for both engines. Those handles are designed to cut off fuel if there's a fire, but pulling them in normal flight can shut down the engines and put everyone at serious risk. The two working pilots that day, Captain Emil Rear and First Officer Alan Kiesel, reacted very quickly. They stopped Emerson, secured the controls, and the crew restrained him. The flight diverted to Portland, Oregon, and landed safely. So the worst-case scenario did not happen. But the potential was severe enough that prosecutors treated this as an extremely serious event. Now fast forward to what just happened in court. On the federal side, Emerson has been sentenced to time served and 3 years of supervised release. Time served means he is getting credit for the time he already spent in custody, so he's not going back to federal prison. Supervised release is like a strict federal probation period. He'll be monitored, have to follow specific conditions, and any violation can send him back to court. In a separate state case in Oregon, he pleaded guilty to 83 counts of recklessly endangering another person and 1 count of recklessly endangering an aircraft. Those are felony-level offenses tied directly to what happened on the plane. The state judge gave him 50 days in jail, but again with credit for time already served, so he doesn't have additional jail to do. He also received 5 years of probation, 664 hours of community service, and more than $59,000 in restitution to Alaska Air Group and others affected. So on paper, the key date to keep in mind is this Monday, when these sentences came together and it became clear. Emerson is not going back to prison, but he will live for years under close supervision, heavy financial obligations, and strict court conditions. For many people, that outcome feels complicated. On one side, there is relief that no one was physically hurt and that he will be watched closely. On the other, there is concern about what message this sends about accountability for near-catastrophic events. But for aviation workers, and especially those who are immigrants or on work visas, this case raises a very specific question. What happens to your career and your immigration status after something like this? First, let's talk career. A felony conviction tied to aircraft safety is almost certainly career-ending as a commercial pilot. The Federal Aviation Administration can take action against a pilot's certificates, and airlines are extremely risk-averse when it comes to safety-sensitive positions. Even if you avoid a long prison sentence, a record like this is going to be a huge barrier to ever flying professionally again. Now imagine if this same case involved a non-citizen pilot working in the United States on a visa, a green card applicant, or even a permanent resident. Serious criminal convictions can trigger what immigration law calls deportability or inadmissibility. Certain offenses can be treated as crimes involving moral turpitude, or, if there's a risk to people or property, even as aggravated felonies in the immigration context. That can mean losing your current status, being denied future visas, or being put into removal proceedings. This is why the stakes are so high for immigrant workers in safety-sensitive jobs like aviation. You are already under intense scrutiny by your employer, by federal regulators, and by immigration authorities. A major incident like this doesn't just threaten your job, it can threaten your ability to stay in the country at all, even without a long prison term. Long probation, restitution, and a felony record can still be more than enough to derail any immigration plan. There's another layer here: mental health. In many of these aviation incidents that make national news, we later learn about stress, burnouts, substance use, or psychological crises. For immigrant workers, the pressure can be even heavier. Financial strain, supporting family abroad, fear of losing status, and stigma around seeking mental health care. If workers are afraid that admitting they're struggling could risk their job or their visa, they may stay silent until something goes very wrong. So what can workers actually do? Here are a few practical action items. First, if you are in a regulated profession like aviation, always know what your reporting obligations are for mental health, medications, or incidents at work, and talk to a qualified aviation or occupational doctor before making decisions alone. Second, if you ever face criminal charges, get both a criminal defense lawyer and an immigration lawyer working together as early as possible. The immigration consequences often last far longer than the jail sentence. And third, document everything about your work history, safety training, and any steps you've taken to manage stress or mental health. That kind of record can matter in both employment and immigration reviews. This story of Joseph Emerson is a reminder that one moment in a cockpit can change a career forever and, for many workers, could change their entire life in the United States. Courts can show a measure of leniency with time-served sentences and probation, but employers, regulators, and immigration agencies may still respond very harshly. We'll continue to follow how cases like this shape policy debates around mental health screening, safety rules, and immigration risks for aviation professionals and other workers in high responsibility roles. If you want to dig deeper into how criminal records interact with immigration law and work authorization, visit visaverge.com, where we break down these issues in detail for workers and their families.